Ladies and gentlemen, days and dams, welcome to Transitional Spaces with Tanay. Let's have a chat, just you and me. Transitional spaces where you wanna be. Here you can be free, spill tea, and never worry about no negativity. It's gonna be okay. Strong soldiers get tough battles every single day, but we gonna be alright. Cause one thing trans gonna do is put up a fight. You gotta know your rights. Make sure you feel good every day and every single night. Let's kiki, let's talk shit. Whether you're he, she, them, or that bitch. Good and bad, let's cock that tea. Here you can be you and I'ma be me. Let's kiki, let's talk shit. Whether you're he, she, them, or that bitch. Yes, transitional spaces, what? Transitional spaces, yes! Transitional spaces, welcome to Transitional Spaces. Yes, transitional spaces, what? Transitional spaces, yes! Transitional spaces, welcome to Transitional Spaces.
How gorgeous. How are you? I want to thank you for joining me on Transitional Spaces. Because I am. Now, this year, you will be the Grand Marshal for New York City Pride. How did that come about for you?
Let's see. David reached out to me on Monday. I was at my training. He said, "Can we see each other on Tuesday?" I'm looking at myself. I'm like, "Oh, sure." I was like, "Can we do a Zoom?" He's like, "No, I need to see you in person." I was like, "Okay." Comes, he waited until I finished training, and then we went to the side room. And he said, "Do you mind if I record this?" And I was like, "What is going on over here?" So we're literally sitting across from each other like this. We're holding hands, and he's like this. He's like, "Lina, I would like to ask you." I was like, "What's in there?" Yeah. He laughed. And it's actually on my Instagram. You can see it. And he's like,
Will you do us the honor of being one of New York City Pride's 2025 Grand Marshals?
"Wait, what?" Oh my God. I didn't know how it happened, but I knew it was a huge honor. So then telling me that, I'm like, "Well, how does this happen? Like, how do you get bestowed this honor?" People vote in for it. I'm like, so people voted for all the people who are, because there's 5 of us to be a Grand Marshal, and we've known each other a very long time. I'm not one of those people who gets caught up into all the accolades of what it is that I've done with all the different hats that I wear. I'm grateful because I love people and I love giving back. So for me, that's the real gift. That's the accolade. But for something like this that people are consciously thinking of you about, that was really like heartfelt for me.
I think it's about damn time that Lina was Grand Marshal, New York City Pride. Congratulations, Lina. You are a wonder. We love you. We value you. You've always been a tremendous gift to our community.
Lina, I am so excited for you to be Grand Marshal this year, 2025. You deserve it. They deserve you. I am proud of you. Go shine like you always do.
One, we're seeing a whole demographic of children being proactive. I mean, when we came out, it was to a degree, but not like now. Like these kids, they got the phones. They are so like not about any of the old oligarchy that we are living in now.
They want everything right now.
They don't want no. Exactly, right. And they also know that they're like almost extinct dinosaurs, this current administration. And the rest of the world and America does not look like that anymore. It looks like this. It is a Benetton ad. So therefore, they're trying to do the most before they're, get the hook. So what I'm saying is seeing all these kids step up and say, "I'm not about this." Listen, try to take the tea out. Well, baby, you can't come for this. We've been doing this longer than you all are. And you are the one that's oppressed.
Right. In the community, we are hunkering all the way down.
And everybody's flourishing.
Right.
And also, too, I have to say, kids, get your news and your from the right outlets. Because, the mainstream outlets are all going to be controlled by these foolish children until they get the hook. You know what I'm saying? So you got to know where to get it from and be unbothered by it, because this is what they want to do. They want to give you this record. They want to speak onto your nerves and work your nerves. Do not let them do that, baby. They're pressed because they can't get to us. And that's what we need to be in full united situation together.
Obviously, all my viewers, they know who you are, the infamous Girlina of NYC. Now, for people of our generation, music and the club was almost like a religious experience.
Absolutely.
But how has the style of, the DJ changed?
Yeah. Ooh. It's funny. literally this year on my birthday in April. That's for both Aries.
Yeah.
I just celebrated 28 years, which is insane to think that, wow, that was 97. I said it was like one of my first movies that year. And then another movie that Candace and I did, Always Something Better. And then I started DJing it. You know, it was a dare from, you know, my beloved Frankie Knuckles and, you know, just all of my beautiful people who I had worked with for so long dared me right before my birthday saying, you know what, you would be an amazing DJ. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, music inside out? Yeah, I was a dancer. So, yeah, I do music. But I mean, if you look at an equipment and, you know, a DJ booth, does it look very overwhelming?
It is.
I mean, I was like the same way. I mean, yeah, I've been up in the booth a million times, but like the thought of touching it and actually spinning music was like, huh? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no. But I was like, if they're telling me this, there's a reason, then there's something behind this.
Right.
So I obviously took the Pepsi challenge, and here I am 28 years later. So what I saw from then till now has been, I mean, listen, New York is always forever changing, but there is a part of me that feels like all of a sudden it got taken over by the pod people. And I would say that has to do with phones, a disconnect of people. You know, you knew that being out, you could go to 5 places in one night. That's the thing, right? And you living, and that was our community. That was our social media. Where I feel like most of the people now, they don't have a conversation. They're always on their phones. You can walk by a restaurant and there are literally 5 people sitting at the table and they're on the phone like, y'all could have Zoom called this. Why are you sitting there? You know, so glad we come from the school of touch, feel, smell. Like, I want to know and touch my produce. You know what I mean? I want you to have a conversation in my eyes, you know? So I think that definitely had a huge part to play on community and going out and music, you know, where people became more introverted and then they became more about drugs. It was like about this EDM kind of stuff where it was just like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I can just be in here and in my own head, you know? So,
Now,
that had a huge part. And bottle service.
yes. Now, how the DJs are playing, I find has changed a lot. It used to be you had a whole bunch of turntables. Now, are you still using?
Baby, I'm OG, first of all. I still use turntables and CDs. I gotta touch my shit. I'm a visual person. I need to see my shit. And also too, I mean, I'm sorry, you could be putting that little stick in there, honey, and you got a whole place set playing up and you're not even doing nothing. No, I like to touch my stuff. I like to look at my stuff. And I also come from the school of taking you on a journey. So from the first song to the last song, like, you know the school we come from. Third person we can't see on the screen. I've known a very long time. Another one I didn't even know even longer. I didn't even know about. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And I think that a lot of people just happen to put the name DJ in front of their name where it's like, you have not scraped your knees, baby. You have no idea what it is to actually know that life.
When you have these young, beautiful trans young ladies asking you about advice and how they get started, how you got started, what do you tell them?
Take your time. There's really no rush. And I think that that's also too something that we, not myself, but a lot of the culture is very impatient. They want, like you said, they want it yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, but you need to take time to find out who you are and grow into yourself. There's no rush. And you can't also get into it or rather do it quickly because you're getting attention by a man or that you want to look better than you're doing it for the wrong reason, sweetheart. You got to take the time to listen to yourself and grow. And I think that was something that, you know, was very important to not only myself but my family, because it was a joint gift for us all to come up together, you know, and I came from that. So having that, and then my sister at the time, like, you know, we had each other, you know, because when we were coming up,
hi Candace. Hi Candace.
When we were coming up, you know, the trans community was a lot different than it was now, you know.
Yeah.
And those girls had wanted nothing to do with me and her because we were dolls of, you know, the gay community. And they thought that because we didn't have to do sex work or we didn't have to do that, anything, that we were somehow better than them. And we're like, we love you. And every time we would see that, we would say hi. And it would be cordial and nice letter, but it was always very Stargate, you know, or something. Yeah. They didn't feel like we had our medals. We had each other. So thank God we had each other, that we got to learn this story of life, of how it was that we wanted our trans experience to be.
When many of us, when we meet each other, it's really hard to find that
circle, that family.
Yes. Yeah. You know, because of all the traumas, you know, the past. How have you been able, you know, to heal from any maybe traumas that you brought into your adulthood?
You know what's interesting? I would tell you, I've always been a very positive spiritual worker, in my life. So I don't have, and I didn't ever have any traumas like that. I think that because like whenever I feel like there's anything there that makes me feel like a little twitch, I want to understand it. So it doesn't become a trauma to me. It becomes something I want to like dissect and understand. So therefore, it's not something that I'm afraid of. It's something that I want to tackle and I want to like conquer. That's the Aries, like, man eater, hungry, as you were saying earlier about you look like a bad girl. That's me.
Good
A good bad girl, she said. Yeah.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
I think it was one of the first times that I met you at a Canvas in a club called Heaven, and we were at the bar. And you two girls, you were looking up and asking me, oh my goodness, about hormone therapy and electrolysis. And I just, remember just looking over at the both of you and just going, look at these two young girls. They don't know what's going on, but they're trying to figure it out.
That's very Candace. That sounds very like sister, honey. She's always like this.
Yeah.
I'm over there like this. Yeah, I know, girl. Because you know what, Aries, honey, we're already at that molecular level, honey.
Now, I have to tell you that I have always had a blast out in Fire Island. But I remember you out there and like the crowd just living and loving. And like we mentioned earlier, like for people of like our generation, music and the clubs, it was like fire.
Yeah, it was church, yeah. And that's what I always am conscious of any time that it is that I'm spinning or that I'm doing anything, but especially when I'm spinning. Yeah, I made my return back to the island after 12 years. But not just regular Lina's Lounge, but Pavilion Late Night. So it's a 5-hour set. It's a bigger set. And I'm like, okay, all right. This had to be very calculated in a lot of ways. It was a return. And it was also a return to a new home of some old and new, So I had a lot of things that it is that I had to surpass myself as an artist and also as someone who was a pillar of that community. That for the last 12 years, every single summer, I've still acuted to people's summer experience. And when you're out in that vortex, and I know because I lived it for 10 years, time literally sits still. So it does, even though I left 12 years ago, every summer, where's Lina? Where's Lina? How can we get, so it's like, so I knew this had to be very calculated in a sense, and I wasn't going to do something that I'd done before. I like to be moved. And then after the first hour, I knew, and they're like, there is a line going past the pantry to all the way around the thing you do, girl. It's about ready to jump off. Next thing I know, I looked up and it was just a sea of people and they were all screaming. And I was like, okay. And that's when I physically levitated out of my body and I just jumped over the spaceship and we went out there. And I knew at that moment, once I was in there, I was like, I got this. And people afterwards like, I've heard you spin so many different places and this set was just what? Because people forget, listen, I came from big room, I don't do it all the time. And when I do Ladyland or, Horse Street Disco, whatever, but I like to be special with it.
One of the reasons why I love it out there is like, it's a whole, oh gosh, and there's,
you leave yourself from what's going on in the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah. Everyone is out there trying to have a nice time. They're on vacation. Yeah. They want to drink. They want to dance and they want to feel it.
I really found myself in some of the most amazing relationships for being out on the island are just monumental to me. Not only just work-wise, but just personal. Like I found my family. I found my sexuality. I was, before I moved out there, I was getting out of and I was engaged to this guy since the early 2000s, and I started in 2005 out there.
Yeah.
So by the time I got out there, I was just doing a cleansing myself, and I didn't realize, I'm like, oh my God, it's been 4 years, and I haven't had a drink, or I've been celibate, and I didn't even plan that. I was just going through my life and living my best life, and I was
marinating.
I was in my juice, like that. I was getting ready to give you what I was about ready to that 2.0 version of my life. So I get out there. I've been celibate. I was vegan. I wasn't drinking. Maybe my second week out there, I had this beautiful threesome. I was like, okay, This is it. That whole island experience was my goddess, know your body, know yourself type of situation. And to be on that island with all that faggotry and just a bunch of men worshiping all of this. Yeah, please. I had gotten out there in 2005. You know, there was a new owner, and John White, who most people can Google and learn and know your history, who was very, let's just say, very particular about his color. You know, he was basically on his deathbed when the owners at the time had bought all the properties over there, and they had reached out to me saying, you know, we would really like for you to come out here and, you know, be part of this experience that we want to start to create. And they had only ever had a low T and then later night pavilion. There was never a high T. So that's what they wanted me for. So that's when I started Lina's Lounge. So I was like, I was spinning in Saint Tropez and Sardinia at the time. So that was my summer experience. So I was like, you know what? If I don't like it, I can always go back, you know, and to Europe and you know, do what I've been doing. But I was like, there's a reason why this is happening. What is this about? And I did. And like the first week that I was there, it was just like there was a line to get upstairs. And then by the that first couple of weeks, the floor had caved in because they were screaming my name. And it was just, it became something other. So that I happened to be a mixed race, you know, woman of trans experience being out there to all this white faggotry became something different. They're like, wait, Lina's got a residency and she's out there. By the third week, I'm doing low T, Lina's Lounge, and Pavilion, all three, Friday and Saturday. Nobody's done that since then. See all that. Then there became all this diversity that started coming out of there. And the love, it just became something else. So just to look back and see that this woman of all of this situation was dominating all of us for 10 years. It's just, it gags me when I actually say it out loud.
Oh, well, I'm gagging right now. And I'm loving it.
You know, and so many of these kids, you know, some of them have done their homework, but it's like, baby, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. There's the whole reason why you all are out there. And they said this last year at the Down invasion. You guys were here because of that one right here. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just having a great time. But I didn't realize that it would then bring this whole generation that could come out there and, you know, fly their fucking flag and feel as free as they want to feel. And you just see so much diversity and so much trans experience out there. There was none of that out there. I was the only chick out there. You know what I mean? Except for, you know, people that I would have come from Europe and whatnot. But it just, they were, I don't want to say they were tolerable. They were embracing it. But there weren't people out there otherwise experiencing and being anything that this was.
We have been speaking a lot about history. When did yours start?
Right before I started dancing, as I was a trained dancer for 10 and a half years, I knew, and my grandmother, you know, grandmother's the matriarch of the family. So my grandmother really did help understand not only me, but help my family understand and embrace and all of this and raising me up, you know? And my grandmother, she's, I mean, growing up here in Manhattan, my story is a little bit different. You know, she had been a part of the S&M contingency from the Gay Pride Parade since the 70s. She had a female and a male slave. I unfortunately lost her during COVID, which was really sad because that woman, she was on the Imperial Court. Like my Nana, like was Nanu, we called her Nanu, was just everything, you know? And she really gave me my goddess light. She like handed me the crystals, and also too, she was Black Wicca. So, you know, my spirituality was very early intertwined to our connection. And she knew that. And boom, when you have that comfortability and you are embraced with that, you know who you are, you know? And so I will say that, you know, throughout my whole life, I've always had this beautiful connection of just the universe and understanding myself and knowing my self-worth and never, ever being taken advantage of and being just very honed in on that energy. You know, it's always been there with me, always.
Grandmothers, I don't know what it is, you know, they know.
They know. They pay attention in a different way that your family doesn't. And that's not in a bad way.
I remember for like a little time, I lived over with, you know, my grandmother. And I was a teenager and I was, you know, dressing up. And I think I was about to walk my first function, you know, the balls.
Yeah.
And I'm walking in, you know, my heels and I have on a dress and my grandmother walks in and goes, "Oh, you look nice."
Not even blinking an eyelash, right? Yeah.
And then my grandmother goes, it's almost 8 o'clock. You know your grandfather, he's gonna come home soon. You gotta take off that. Who have been your role models? Obviously, you know your grandmother, but who else?
For me, well, when I hear people tell stories, and again, it's your own personal, journey and experience, are people that they speak of who they don't necessarily know, but they resonate with their work or something like that. For me, because I'm such a touch, feel, smell type of spirit, it has to be people who I know, that attainable energy that can be bestowed upon me. And I think growing up an only child, I was always around older people who I wanted to listen to stories and I wanted to make connections with. So those would be people that I would find to be the ones that resonated with me and are parts of me. For instance, my grandmother, my mother, strong women were always the thing. When I was playing with my Barbies, so it would become these storylines that became actually my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now a little bit later on in your life, who were the DJs that you looked up to?
Oh, God, that's an easy one. One was my mentor, Frankie Knuckles. I mean, that was just, I'm a soulful house girl to the end. And then I'm a galactic house head, honey, with my boy, Junior Vasquez and, Merritt and Carlos Petrus and Larry Levan, of course, the list goes on. And Teneglia, we had some great, and we still fortunately have some amazing, great DJs that, sprinkled some fairy dust on me, but said, no, girl, you've already got this. Another thing is that each DJ has their own personal story of how they tell the story through their music. So me as a dancer, right, I'm telling it to you from that end because I know how to let you have it on the dance floor. Right.
Now, do you know what I noticed way back in the day? And even now still, well, now maybe a little bit more, but there weren't any female DJs.
No, it was just me, Jackie Christie.
Right.
And then myself. Yeah. And then myself. And then later on, Honey. And sort of Susan Morbido, of course. Yeah. Right. And thank you, Tracy Young. Yeah. But I think that was us.
I want to hear 1, 2, and number 3 highlights in your life.
And it can be anything.
It can be anything. Highlights in Lina's life.
Okay. First highlight, I would say, would definitely be being embraced by my family. That is a huge highlight. Because
that began young.
And that began young. And you got to be very appreciative of where you come. And also, being an activist and working with HMI and all the different organizations that I'm with, being a global ambassador and on boards and doing public speaking, I hear these stories and they're just, they never don't move me and take me to a little bit of a choke in my throat. My second one would be easily my gift for always being so in tune and intuitive of keeping me safe in this life. Has a lot to do with my spiritual work. I have always, and I have to always say, knock on whatever this is. Always being very in tune with myself and my surroundings that have kept me very safe and given me the opportunity to school people without feeling judged. That feels very special to me. And my third one, I would say, would be right now. I feel like I'm living the best, lightest version of myself. The woman that I am right now is the best version of Lina that I've ever been and that I wanted to. And I grew up as a little girl saying, I can't wait to be this girl. But this is where I'm at right now. It's just so surreal. I am feeling and looking the best I've ever looked. There's something about maturity, honey, and this gig called life when you just don't give a shit and the fucking bullshit does not matter anymore. I sweat the bullshit to a fault. I cared for other people when they didn't. So I was taking on their shit. So I was like, maybe that's what shows in those photos. No, it's not like I don't care. I obviously am a very empathetic person, but I care about being happy first, putting myself first, especially after getting out of an 8-year relationship. I love Lina first.
I was speaking, I think, with a friend of mine about, a month and a half ago. And I remember explaining, look, I know that I am not as beautiful as I used to be. at 25, but I feel more beautiful now than I have ever felt like in my whole
Yeah.
life.
And you can't get a surgery to get that.
No.
That is something inside, and the falls and the scrapes that we were talking about earlier before we were on camera, you know. I love those things. And I still want to fall. And I don't ever want to think that I'm too fierce to know any better. You have to still want to live and learn in this gig called life.
We're learning still.
Amen. Amen. And I love it.
Learning every day.
Baby. What? And you know what it's doing? It's making us look that much more effervescent and gorgeous because we don't fucking give a shit.
I hear
What'd you hear?
a memoir coming. Memoir. When can we expect it? And what is in it?
Okay, ooh, girl, let me tell you this. I always knew being an only child that I wanted to always tell a story. And also being an archivist in my family and, you know, a Barbie collector, you know, all the stuff that you know.
Yeah.
I kept everything. And I always made certain that, and the person who's off camera we can't see would always see me with a guy who had a fucking camcorder. Because I was like, no, baby, this all needs to be documented. Like, I mean, you would be at most of these places, in a factory, in a makeup room, and wherever it was that I was doing something. And I knew people who, you know, worked at MTV and who, you know, would do, you know, stories on me and whatnot. And I'm like, could you come and record this night? La, la, la. And they did. So I have all of that. And then I kept all the flyers and the invitations and everything because, like I said, I wanted to tell the story. And I knew that my life was literally like when I played with my Barbies. But now I'm the Malibu Barbie. And everybody else are a part of my storyline, and I get to play with them and make this shit happen. That's how I always was in my head. Always very creative that way. So I knew that telling my story was going to be not only cathartic, but I wanted it to be so moving that it just took me outside of myself. And I always knew that I wanted to do therapy, but I wanted to wait until I had gotten to my grown and sexy. I was always very good at, you know, getting myself through things because of how I was raised and the relationship I had with my grandmother and my spirituality saving me for a lot of those things. But I said, if I'm doing this memoir, I want to make certain that I am going to a therapist and doing this right, as I did with my transition with my mom and everything. I'm that girl. So I did. And I will tell you, those 2 years of doing therapy and writing that, like the things that I was getting and that was coming to me was stuff that I didn't even realize that I had put behind Barbie boxes. Saying I don't have the tools to deal and understand this now. I'll get to it when I can get to it. I was in a car 2 years ago and coming down the West Side Highway. My driver was taking me down and I'm on the right side. I'm looking outside. It's beautiful outside. And all of a sudden, I just happened to look at this man's right forearm and I screamed. I left my body and I didn't even know it. And he's in the car swerved and he's like, ma'am, he's like, you all right? I'm like, and I came back, I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I was shaking. And he's like, what's wrong? He's like, are you okay? I was like, and my phone was in my lap. And I was like, oh, I got a message. I played it off. But what it was, when I looked at that man's right forearm, it reminded me of a memory that I had completely suppressed. And that's what this book was doing. It was bringing out stuff that I had completely forgotten about, that I no longer needed to hold on to. This book lightened my life. And it hasn't even come out, but what it's done to me and what it's given me of a place that I don't need to hold on to shit that no longer serves me has been everything. So she is my gift to myself. She is my gift to my beautiful cherubs that can't find a way to understand some shit. I'm not trying to be some self-help guru somebody. I'm not that person. But if you can get something that just feels very naturally shrugged off by a shoulder, like, I left this crumb over here for you, girl. If you feel like you read it, you know what I mean? Like, I like that. Like, that's how if you talk to me like this, I'm already going the opposite direction. Talk to me and with me, and let's grow and make the soil come up together. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I want this book to be. I'm not going to be out here trying to sell it. If you know me, or even if you don't, you'll hear the words that I speak. They'll resonate with you, or they don't.
You have to listen to Auntie.
Sistrix. Forever sister sugar. I'm too young to be an auntie cookie. Look at him. Tight,
I have a few more questions.
Let me.
Like, who's loving on Lina right
Honey, who isn't? You listen, I gotta tell you, I'm in this place where I am literally in my sexual nuance, and I'm thinking it. I'm loving it, you know. For me, I like even numbers. So there's 4 guys that I'm speaking to, and then there were 6. So I like to, because I'm a very dynamic woman. So I need to make certain that before I decide to, break the scenario down, who am I placing into parts of you and this person to make one person? Or are you just that person with all those things? And I find that when you give yourself 4 to 6 people, and I'm not even kidding you, those are the 2 numbers that always work better for me. Not all at the same time, obviously. I'm talking about separately. You know what I mean? Where I'm talking to this person and this person, I'm like, I really like this quality in this person. And the other one, girl, that you're just like, okay, let me Frankenstein this shit and make him all one. And then you just like, okay, there becomes a part of the temperature that ends up resonating with each conversation after you've left the other one that kind of goes into their ear. And you're kind of like, all right, this is when you see if they're paying attention. Or then it's like, okay, I can now get rid of 5 and 6 because 1, 2, 3, and 4 seem to be paying attention. Then you keep on doing that scenario. The more that you spend with each one, certain parts of those qualities, because, women, all we need to do is hint, honey. We tell them, honey, they ain't going to try to listen. Little hints. Okay, well, guess what? 1 and 2 is really excelling. 3 and 4 is lazy. Honey, and then there you are with 1 and 2. And then it comes down to who is going to do the most work. You've already put in this amount, and that's where I'm at right now. I was on that island for 10 years. It was horrific. But I am definitely having a lot of beautiful, loving experiences. I just don't know if there's anyone dynamic enough to really hold it down right now. But I'm having a wonderful time doing some interviews. Don't, honey, because you got to get up many centuries to try this, honey.
And now, lastly,
yes,
what I want to know.
I didn't do it. No, just kidding.
What I want to know, what is the hardest lesson that you had to learn in this life?
That's a really good question.
I mean, I have learned.
Yeah, I would love to hear yours.
Hard lessons.
What would you say yours is?
One of the lessons that I have learned kind of early on, like in my early 20s, was, the tardiness.
Pay attention, children. That is very important.
I remember I had gotten a dream job.
Okay.
And I lost it.
Because your ass was late.
Because I was late all the time. And that was a lesson that I had to learn.
Humility. I'm going to say this, because I think being an Aries, the word no. That I actually found that no, as I matured and got to understand, no is just a very slow yes. And I've heard people say, I have never seen anyone turn a no into a yes like you do, Lina, honey. And it is true. Because I'm not going to fight you on, like I said, I'm very easy with how it is that I do things, honey. Where you realize, wait a minute, did this and just do this, and that to me? And after this, I'm like, I'm gone. You know what I mean? So I love making a no into a yes.
I want to thank you, Lina Bradford. And I want to thank you for joining me. You've been watching Transitional Spaces.
Yeah, baby.